All right, I think this is ready to rock it. Let me just get. I need to get
And I
some
did find
water.
out that we use a lot of, like, everything we use at work is Red Hat, because I didn't know what RAGL was before,
The
which makes sense why
Rails.
we're only allowed to use the Red Hat repository for stuff. But yeah, this was good stuff to read.
Okay, let me just double check. I have to let my dogs in real quick, and then make sure Twitch and YouTube are coming in noise. Science and technology looks good. I think we're rocking. Let me know if you. Does it look good on your end?
Did you link them somewhere?
Ish.
Okay, I can open them up.
That's YouTube. That's Twitchy Doodle. And
Hello, hello.
perfect. And you guys are
Hello.
coming through audio wise. Awesome. All right. Let me get my dogs in, and then get some water real quick, and then we're ready to rock. So be right back in like 2 minutes.
Let's do
Take
it.
your time. Hello, Doug.
Hello. How far did you get through the book?
Oh my God, I only did 3 and 4. I'm actually behind right now, you guys.
I am too. I mean, I only got through the majority of chapter 5, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But I figure, I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, I have lots of good questions either way. And chapter 7 will probably be simpler because I'm familiar enough with scripting. Maybe. We'll see.
Hmm.
But I'm at least familiar with all this stuff like file system and package managers and things like that. I've used them at least, like scripting, versus
How
like the
long?
bootloader stuff I had no clue.
All right.
How long was the last book club? Like, how did it? How long did it go for?
I think like 2 hours.
2 hours. Okay. 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 Okay.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I don't think we're gonna go that long this one because we don't have a ton of new content. But let's see.
Yeah, this is all stuff that I've used before rather than like bootloader was like all where a lot of my questions were.
I would have liked it to go longer, to be honest, actually, because then after the Leon's hurdle, I could join in again and catch you guys back.
Leon's huddle. What? What? No, I'm just kidding.
Oh, okay. I'm not sure if it was allowed to be mentioned here or not.
No. I'm just kidding.
uh,
Now you're banned. Now you're not allowed back. Can't believe it.
Is that how it works? Oh
no,
yeah,
don't ban
yeah.
me.
You just get banned. You
I
get
wanted to know
banned
about
from.
Linux.
What was it called? 100 something? I forgot the name of the
I don't
program.
know. Never
It's
heard of
called
it.
200 devs or something. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
No, is it really called 200 devs?
Uh,
Like did they?
Doug will answer it because Doug is really experienced with that.
The name of it?
Oh, 100 devs. Sorry. Yeah, I honestly forgot what the name was of it. So it's been a minute since I like.
Oh, wait, you were actually asking it seriously?
I was actually
I
like
was
seriously.
like,
I forgot what the proper name
oh
was.
my
Yeah.
God.
Because I know I see like the programming podcast that they have or whatever, and I forgot that the 100 devs was the other thing. Yeah, I forgot. It's okay. We're good. Cool.
But,
All right. I think we're ready to rock, right?
yeah, let's go.
What are we doing? 5, 6, and 7? 5, 6, and half of
Yep,
7.
5, 6, 7.
Yeah. All right. Let's do it. I'm live. You're here. Let's talk questions. How was reading? How is it? How is your Linux journey going?
I learned a lot of stuff that I did not know. I thought there was only directories and files to be looked at with ls, but apparently there's like 10 things to be looked at that I haven't seen.
Talk questions. This is true. Are you talking about like the different file types?
Yeah, like when you do ls, it'll tell you like D for directory, dash for file, and
Yes,
the
yes.
other various items.
Like the flags.
Like the ls output, right? You're talking about specifically?
Yeah. Yeah, I also heard some words that I had read before, because like when I was writing my own version of Tail, I saw that they were handling named pipes, and I still kind of don't know what that would mean differently than a file, but it seems like it's somewhat different
Yeah, for sure.
because it's handled specially.
No, that's a good thing to put up. Someone's asking in the chat if they can get the PDF link. I can't share the PDF link, unfortunately. I'm only even using this PDF so I can show it, but I'm waiting for the book to get delivered. It got delayed by Amazon, so I don't have the physical copy yet. Which is why I have this PDF. That may or may not have been retrieved in a way of payment or not. Who knows? I mean, I bought the book anyway. No, you bring up a good point, Jacob. Like the different file types are important, and it's something that early in my career I didn't even like know what that meant. So like when you ls, I'm trying to look for it in the book so I can put it up on the screen. And actually, let me see if I can share my screen.
I think it's probably under file types or file attributes.
Can you see my screen in Discord now too? So you can get like, instead of being behind the delay.
Well, that's so much better quality too. Amazing.
Oh, look at that. Oh, is the stream quality Hatui? Is it bad?
Oh, okay. I was just on 480p.
Oh, okay. All right, cool. Good. Yeah. No, so they had a nice little listing of file types. Oh, here we go. Regular files, directories, character files, block files, sockets, pipes, symbolic links. And quite frankly, like early in my career, I was like, wait a minute, what? what are these things mean to me? I thought everything was just a regular file. So it was nice to like have the book kind of show that to the reader better. Did you
I think the difference in handling was the named pipes, where you couldn't tail them. Like you'd have to read the entirety of that pipe. Like, I guess you could tail them, but it would include reading the whole thing into memory.
For your tail clone is what you're talking about.
Yeah, talking for that, like that was the difference that I noticed between the two. Is like implementations couldn't just tail the named pipe. Tail meaning like grabbing the last end of it. Like it could run tail on the named pipe, but it would have to read the whole thing into memory.
Yeah, you couldn't like follow it as new things. You'd have to like read. You couldn't just start from the end, essentially, is what you're saying. You have to like open it and then start reading the data as it comes in. Yeah, that makes sense.
I believe so, yeah.
I wanted to cover something real quick that I already knew, but I figured maybe readers and viewers didn't know, especially if they're coming from like Windows, is that Linux has and Unix has this like concept of like of an entire file tree that starts at the root, right? The slash. And that file tree can contain one or more file systems. So like different drives, different file systems, whatever. And when I first came to Linux, that confused me kind of a lot actually, because I was unsure. Like I was used to like the C drive, right, or the D drive or whatever on Windows, and in Linux there is no concept of like drive letters like that. Everything is just under the entire root file tree, and when you mount a file system somewhere in that tree, that's how you can like access different file systems and different drives and whatever. And I thought that was pretty neat, but also something that may be confusing people if they've never seen it before.
Yeah, that was interesting to me. Like it was different, and then like a lot of the Unix environments I've been in have do have like a C drive in them, but that's just because they're backed by like a Windows file system.
Yeah. Like if you're on WSL, you can go into like the mount C folder or whatever and see your like system drive mounted there, which is kind of cool. But it's not like, it's just because the Linux mount named it that way. It's not like any special, you know. So I thought that was a
Yeah,
pretty
even
interesting thing.
outside of WSL too. Like I have like at work we have a specific terminal emulator that looks Unixy, but it is running on Windows. So it'll show it as if it were, I mean, like a slash C, something like that.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That's pretty cool. It reminds me, I haven't used Windows for work in like probably 5 years now. No, not 5 years. Probably like 10 years now. That's wild to think about.
Just the first time. Yeah.
Windows 10, let's go.
No, scary. The one thing that was cool is that there are like these arbitrary limits in the file system where you can't like have like a directory path be more than 255 characters long, like a component of the path. And I was just like thinking, I wonder if there's any loopholes or vulnerabilities you can exploit because of that behavior. Like if you create a really long file, what actually happens? But I didn't go researching. I just thought it was cool.
I ran into long file name issues with Git a few times. Like working with Java means there's a lot of directories, which means very long.
Oh,
So
true.
then if you're at like the root of a directory, you're trying to add things, then you'll have to turn on like long file names because I think Windows has even shorter names that it allows.
Yeah, I think you're correct in that regard. It is interesting to see these little implementation details like kind of leak out sometimes. Um, any questions on like mounting or like file systems in general? Anyone have any questions there that we should cover?
I was more generally wondering why you would mount something because they do mention it made sense when disks were smaller, and then they mentioned an example of the like slash dev being handled by the kernel and mounted somewhere else. But is there any time you as a user would need to mount anything?
Well, yes. So your the entire system. I mean, you can see my screen, right? FS step.
Yes.
Like your entire system is installed on different file systems in your on your drives or different partitions or whatever. However you slice and dice your hard drives up, and
Mm-hmm.
then those get mounted like on boot to the right locations so that your system can use it. So
Oh.
like in my case, like here's my mount points for my system, right? I have like a slash boot, slash boot EFI, and slash home. They all those file systems get mounted to these different locations so that the Linux system can boot and do the thing. And like granted, I don't do this as a user. This is like a system thing, right? Every time my system boots, it reads this and mounts these things the way it's defined in this file. But as a user, like if you plug in a USB device into your system, I didn't mean to hit that button. That's like a lot, Mount dash L. But you can see like all these mounts. There's temp files, all this crap. But when you plug in a USB device, it gets mounted too, to a unique location. That just gets handled automatically by the system though. So that's kind of a user thing because you, the user, are plugging in a USB drive, but you, the user, are not mounting the USB drive. The system's doing it automatically.
Okay, so like potentially, like for Windows, I've had to partition drives, and that's when I added another SSD to my computer. So then
Yeah.
in that case, I would do the same thing on Linux, likely, right?
Correct. Yeah. If you if you like insert a new drive, so on this machine that I'm running, I have one drive here. I have an NVMe drive. If I like plugged in a USB, oh my god, it's gonna be dangerous on stream, right? I have no idea what's on this USB stick. All right, we're doing it live. Who cares? All right, I plugged in the USB into my machine. Now, if I rerun this command, assuming that this does something, is this even a thing? Is this thing on? I guess not. I guess this USB drive is just like, this dock is probably not working correctly. Let me plug it into the laptop directly.
Yeah, the reason I didn't know some of that stuff, like what
There we
you're
go.
printing there, is because I'm using WSL, of course, and that information is different on there.
So I just plugged in a USB device into my computer and noticed like a new device is now listed. This LSBLK device is list block devices. That's what it does. So like I have two block devices here. I have one is my NVMe drive, which is like my OS drive for this machine, and then I have this SDA drive, which is the USB that got auto mounted to this location. So if I wanted to see the files on this device, I can go to this location. But you see, it's different devices, and if you wanted to like partition up any of these devices into different partitions or file systems, that's how you would have to do that, right? You'd have to like say, I want to format this disk and put a partition on it, and then on that partition I want to put a file system, and then on that file system I want to mount it here. And that's how you would do it in Linux too. So similar to Windows, but slightly different concept, I guess.
Yeah, I just ran mine and put it in the chat, and it does show, like, it shows a terabyte for the main, like the NVMe drive that I have is 1 terabyte, and that's where it's mounted. The distro is mounted, and then the rest of it has some other information for other things.
Yeah.
I'm not quite sure what those are exactly.
Yeah, I get you. I'm not entirely sure either. But that's the idea. That's, you have block devices, they get partitioned, they get file systems, they get mounted. That's like the high level idea of all this stuff. But regardless of where it gets mounted, it's all using the same file tree. So like, it's not like this USB device that I have plugged into my system right now is like the D drive or something, right? It's literally under the root path as well, just like any other file on my system. If I go to this location, I will find the USB drive files, which is just a cool concept in Linux.
Yeah, that makes sense. Okay.
Okay. What? I didn't know that fuser was a command. This is the first time in my life I've ever heard of this command before, fuser, which allows you to see like what users are reading or writing at a certain path in the file system. I guess that's what it said it did. But it was the first time I ever heard of that command. I was always used to lsof, which is like list open files. But it's cool to see that there's other things out there. And they even mentioned like, lsof is probably the more elaborate way to do this nowadays. I guess I should give some context.
Where is this in the book? Did I just like read over that? Because I don't remember this part at all.
Path names,
We're
right?
in, like,
123, 124, 124.
okay.
Basically, it was just saying, when you go to mount or unmount a file system, that it can't be in use, because if a user is using it, like if you unmounted it from under them, you can do like destructive behavior. So
Okay.
you can find out if someone's using the file system with these different commands. I thought that was pretty cool.
I see what I did. I was like, if I ever need to do this, I will look up the command and,
Yep. No, I don't blame you.
do it from my memory.
That's the way to do it. Okay, yeah, and then it just talks about the organization of the whole file tree, like all the different top level directories and such, like blah 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 blah. Nothing special there, honestly.
I was sad I didn't have higher on mine, on WSL.
Yeah, I
So
don't
sad.
even know what this is. Higher. Is this a command that I do have?
It's a like a man page for the hierarchy of your file system, right?
I don't have it. Yeah.
Oh, okay. So it's not just me.
Oh, I have the. Oh, cool. Yeah, it's a man page 7. Okay. It just talks about the different top level directories.
Oh,
and such.
it's a man page, not a command.
I thought it was a command based on the book, but I guess I misread. Yeah, a higher man page. Yeah, okay. That was kind of confusing.
I did the same thing.
Yeah. All right, so if you do man higher.
Oh
you
yeah, I
should
have that
see
too.
Yeah.
Okay.
We're doing
Man
it.
7 higher.
We're doing it.
Whoa. Well, I was sad. I was like, oh no, I don't have all this stuff. What am I gonna do?
yeah, I thought it was command, especially when you're like introducing other things with the same syntax. You know, you're using like fuser and lsof, and you're using the same bold syntax. Yeah, whatever. You mentioned file types earlier, right? Like, you know, regular files, directories, block, character devices, things of that nature. Did you have any questions on them specifically about the different file types and such?
I had questions about what named pipes were, but it seems like they're kind of like just information coming in, so like some kind of socket, like maybe a network request is giving you back information, you put it in a named pipe. Not sure.
So you're talking specifically about name like FIFOs essentially?
Yes.
I don't think I've ever used a named pipe like like that.
Yeah, that is my guess. I do not know.
Yeah, I've never actually used these like personally. I've seen them, I've whatever, but I've never actually like created one of these and sent data to it and read data to it, read data from it. So I actually don't know the behavior there. I've created a socket and I've read and written to a socket, but I never actually used like a named pipe. Unless there's a popular named pipe that I used somehow generically and I didn't know was a named pipe under the hood. Maybe someone in chat that has experience with name pipes can tell me more or tell us more, like what the like idioms are around it. The way I read it though
Okay.
is similar.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say the way I read it though is like similar to pipes on the shell, where you like pipe your standard out into the standard in of another command. I kind of read it that way, but more on the file system layer. I could be wrong. That's just kind of how my mind thinks of them. Did you have any questions around like hard links and symbolic links?
That is the next question I have.
All right.
Which, yeah, like from my understanding, like I've never heard of anyone making a hard link, but it seems like some things that I like it mentions there, like dot and is a hard link. So like things, I guess you'd use a hard link for anything that should stay in the same spot no matter what, versus symbolic link by name. But I didn't know hard links existed before reading this. I always just knew about symlinks.
Yeah, good point. Good question. Let's do...
So yeah, same thing there again. As a user, would you ever want to make a hard link?
There we go. Okay. So like the idea is that like in the ls output there is a link count, right, to these different things, and that's the hard link count. And honestly, the couple paragraphs here that they use to describe hard links describes them pretty well actually, because a lot of people, if you ask them what's a hard link, they're gonna like take a minute to describe it, and they're probably gonna describe it in a wonky way. But I think this book did a good job, especially when like it was using like the second paragraph here of how it kind of describes it. Or where was it? It was saying that like one is a reference to a name and one is a reference to data, or whatever it said in here. Wherever it said that was really good.
There's like an integer, like an inode.
Yeah, exactly. So like a hard link is another reference to the data on disk, essentially, is what it's saying, right? So another reference to the backing inode of where that data is stored. And if you created a new hard link that points to the same data, so I guess I can do it live. So if I like, I don't know, let's put something in foo. Let's say like, hi, Jacob, right? So we put that in foo. And then we ln, what is it, old, new? Yeah. So foo, and then like another, I don't know. There we go. Yeah. So now we see like foo and another both have a hard link count of 2. That means like whatever data that these files are pointing to has 2 hard links associated to that file. Now I think, is it ls-I? No, ls-I? I forget. Is it ls-I? I don't remember how to list the inodes. Help.
Is it capital I?
It's okay, lowercase I, perfect.
Oh, it's not.
Yeah. So you can see the inodes of these like files. So you can see that both the foo file and the another file point to the same inode, so they point to the same data. So if I wanted to like, I'll just do ls/l. If I wanted to remove this file, if I remove like foo, if I removed foo, well, that's not enough to remove the underlying data on disk because there's still another hard link pointing to that data, right? There's still the another file is still pointing there. So even though I removed the foo file, since there was another hard link, the actual data on disk, the inode that was storing the data, has not been cleaned up or removed. Now, I've never actually used hard links in my job, right? Like I never intentionally created a hard link to a file before. I don't know if anyone else has in their job or whatever, but I never had to. But it is cool that like I can technically create another hard link to file somewhere on the same file system, and then that I can kind of use that as a mechanism to prevent data loss in a weird way, right? Like if you had something in like /foo/bar and I created a hard link in like, /temp/whoever, or, /op/whatever to that data, and then you removed your data, well, my hard link means that the data is not like deleted yet. So that's kind of cool, I guess.
I know huddle soon. Do you have any questions, DevD, before we, or yeah, because I have more to ask, but don't want you to miss out if you had any questions.
No, it's okay. I'm like listening to you guys and like typing out like different things on the Linux machine here and learning as like, because I haven't covered chapter 5 and 6, but I'm like trying to get as much as I can.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sounds good. Didn't want to just made sure you have time to answer questions or ask questions. That is, sorry.
Yeah, for sure.
No, thank you for like asking me that. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah.
Cool. Let's, I guess, keep going. But yeah, hard links, pretty cool, pretty interesting. And the big point about hard links is that they can only span their own file system. You can't have a hard link across file system boundaries, which is interesting. But
is that like a mount point?
Not a mount point, but an actual file system for that drive. So like if I like created a partition on a hard drive and like gave it like an XFS file system or an ext4 file system, that file system.
Could I symlink across file system boundaries?
Yeah, because symlinks are just names. And it comes down to the fact that like inodes are specific to file systems, right? Like every file system has their set of inodes that you can store with. And technically two different file systems can have the same inode number, but they refer to different data because they're different file systems. So that's why hard links can't work across file systems. But symbolic links, they don't use inodes as like the reference, essentially. They use the name. So they just say, hey, link me to /foo/bar. Don't care if /foo/bar is on a different file system. Don't care what it's doing. That's the link. So that's like the difference between hard links and soft links. And actually, like, symbolic links are in use today on your system. Odds are, if you go to the root of your file tree and you do ls-l, you'll see like some symbolic links of, where they point things to. It's a good way to have a short path to something that references some like more specific path somewhere else or whatever.
Well, I have a lot of symlinks.
Yeah. Odds are,
60,340 of them.
Okay. Anything else on file types?
Yeah.
I know we didn't cover.
Fun fact: Git shows symlinks on Windows, but they're like a specific file with a specific name in them that you're not supposed to touch.
Sounds about right.
I wanted to talk about permissions.
Let's do it.
Because I know you mentioned last time the X for directories or XU permissions for directories acted differently. And I see that it says it's like scan and you can look in it, but I wasn't quite sure the difference between yeah, like it mentions a few different things.
Yeah. So I mean, I probably shouldn't have mentioned that last week because it's not really like a huge important point. It was more just like an implementation detail. But yeah, if you have a directory and you have the execute permission on that directory, then you can like scan that directory essentially. You can like change into it and use it. I don't know. Yeah, you need both the read and execute bits on a directory in order to list its contents. But
But
you
changing into the directory, like,
we
could you
we
not
can just
change
test it
into
right
it in
now.
an
Yeah,
ls?
yeah. Well, let's test it real quick.
Because that feels odd that you could just change it and do that if that were true.
Did I do this wrong? There we go. Okay. No, I did it wrong. Just let fish do it. Okay, cool. So if I create a new directory called foo and looking at the permissions there, it has like, read, write, execute, whatever. So let me just do 0400 to foo. So now I only have read access to foo, right? So if I touched, actually I should have put something in there. Let me just do this real quick. Let me do make dir foo, and let me say echo, hi into foo, and then like, hello.txt. Okay, so now there's a file inside of the foo directory that I can like see. Now, if I changed my permissions to foo, can I like cat out that file anymore? No, I can't, because now I can't, even though I have read permission, and I'll show you that. Even though I have read permission on the foo directory, I can't like execute and like scan it for anything. So I can't actually like, and I don't even think I can list the contents. Yeah. Which is funny. I can see hello.txt in there, but I can't. This is a weird error. Do you see this?
Yeah.
So like I was able to list the contents of foo, but not list the contents of hello tech. That was weird. I don't know exactly why this is showing this like that. Interesting. Let me update the permissions real quick. So let's do what? Let's do this. So now I only have execute permissions on foo, and now if I like ls it, I can't even list anything. Okay. So execute allows me to list the contents. No, that's wrong. I think that's wrong. No, now I'm confused actually. I don't know what
I
the
think
difference
executes the
is.
scan. Like it said execute scan, so you can look inside of it, but or is it? I think execute scan. And then the other one was being able to list out the things, but you can pass it to the command with
Yeah,
one
that
of
makes
them. Like you
sense.
could pass another command to something else, even if you can't list it.
Yeah, that makes sense. I just gave it read permission, and I was not able to like cat out that hello file that's inside of it, even though I know it's there. But when I gave it just execute permissions, I could then cat out the hello txt. So execute is what controls like being able to use the contents within the directory, but not necessarily list all of its stuff like that. That makes sense, which is why you would give it both read and execute if you wanted to be able to like do all these things.
Yeah, I
Cool.
guess that makes sense. Like kind of like how with like a web server, you typically won't just let people look at everything that's within it if you
Right.
don't want them to guess around URLs.
Right. Yeah, it's interesting. I didn't know that. I knew there was like the difference, but I didn't know what exactly the behavior was. So that was fun. What else about permissions did you want to chat about?
There's the parts after that, which was um sticky and set GeoID, which I
Yeah.
just did not know about at all.
Oops, I don't know why that went that way. Can I go back the other way? Boom. Okay. So do you have any questions there, or you just want to like chat about it?
I just like talk about it a bit because I haven't seen these before, and like same questions as before, like wondering if these are like how relevant are these to me? if I like would I ever set these or would I need to know? Because I know, or as far as I know, the ls command lists the like the user group and owner,
Right.
but it does not list out these things.
I have never in recent memory set the set UID or set JID bits on something purposefully. But basically what they allow you to do is they allow you to set the user ID or the group ID that that file should be executed as. Right? So like if you create a file and you use like set UID, if you put the set UID bit set to my username, when the file is executed, it will execute as me instead of you, even though you own the file and you created it. So it's from what I've understood, it's useful to give non-root users the ability to run files as root or something like that, or that kind of idea. But I've never really done it intentionally in practice myself. So I would say it's probably not important for you to know set UID and set JID so much.
Okay.
Sticky bit, also not important for you to know as a user, but the temp folder does have the sticky bit. I can't even type today. The temp directory, ls-la, sorry. You can see up here, this is the temp. This is the permissions for the temp directory. It has the sticky bit set. It's that little T at the end. And the cool thing about the sticky bit is if you put the sticky bit on a directory, anyone that creates files in that directory, only the file owner or the group owner can delete those files. So that's kind of cool. So like if you and I wanted to share like a directory, but we didn't want to give each other the permission to like delete other people's stuff, you just put the sticky bit on the whole directory, and now that file essentially sticks to you as the user, and only you are the one that can delete it.
Oh yeah, that's cool. That makes sense.
Yeah, it's very cool. Again, I never intentionally had to do this myself, right? I never like intentionally said, oh, I'm gonna put the sticky bit on here, but it makes sense why the /temp directory has it once you know what it does.
Well, a lot of the stuff it does read past apparently.
Learn to read, Jacob. Get your
I mean,
reading
it does say
comprehension
private.
up.
Can't believe it.
How dare you? Java has
I mean, I like
ruined
see
you.
it and I was like, it's right here. Maybe I was just like, I think I just read it and I was like, I don't understand this too much. I'll just ask about it in like an hour.
Nah, that's fine. I think this is probably done then for this chapter. Unless you have anything else?
The other thing just to mention is that I learned what a shebang did and how it works, because otherwise I just like put it there and I was like, I don't know what this does.
Did they cover that in this chapter or in the next chapter?
It's in this chapter.
Is it?
They cover the shebang and says the kernel understands it and knows to execute
Oh, yeah.
that right there.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I don't know if a lot of people know this, but yeah, the shebang is just basically saying what interpreter should I run this file through, essentially, right? What program should I run this file through? And generally, like if you're creating a shell script, it would be like, hash bang /bin/bash or something. But you can totally write a file that's a Python file and do like, user bin Python or user bin Perl for Perl, or user bin my custom program for your own custom program to have to interpret that language. So pretty cool. There's also more than just the shebang too. There's like modes that different programs know how to do. Like VI has like attributes you can set at the header of a file to like control tab size and all that stuff. So there's a lot of cool things there. Okay.
There's something like that I remember for Java. Oh yeah, that's where it is. Okay. Oh, that's different. Okay, it uses a hash. It's not a shebang. It uses hash and then a bang. Or what? I don't remember, but it's in JavaScript.
Oh, nice.
Not
nice.
relevant, but I'll leave it here for later.
Yeah, that works. Any other questions about chapter 5? My dog is dreaming right now. He's laying down and he's barking and twitching. What a good boy.
I don't think I had it anymore, but to be fair, I didn't. I ended off. Let's see where I ended off in the file attributes section.
File attribute.
Yeah, I
Okay,
ended
yeah.
near like change mode.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably
there's
umask and things
really
like that.
not a
I don't.
lot in
That's
here.
it.
I can like give you the skinny. You already know permission bits, right? There's 9 of them. The first 3 are for the user, the second 3 are for the group, the third 3 are for the everyone else. Let me go back to here. And they can be read, write, execute, read, write, execute, read, write, execute, and that's what it is. And they apply to the user, the group, and everyone else. Read is to read the file. Write is to be able to write the file and delete it. Execute is to be able to run it as a program, like to execute it. And then we already talked about the specifics around directories instead of files. So
Yeah, it looks like I just missed the one. Yeah, Linux bonus flags is the only one that I didn't get to, but
yeah. ls is to list the files and inspect them, right? Self-explanatory. You used that before. chmod is to change permissions. chown and chgroup are to change the owner in the group. And then umask, I'll just quickly mention umask because again, it's not something that I've like intentionally. Oh, look, it says Matt here. Oh, hey, it's me. Oh, what's up, man?
yeah.
Hey, we're famous. umask is one that I have never intentionally like set. I never really had to intentionally set it, but basically when you create a new file or directory, umask is like the set of permissions that should be masked against, all permissions to assign the default permissions, right? So if you have
Oh, like a bit mask. Okay.
like a bit mask, exactly. We've talked about bit masks before. But yeah, if you have a umask of 027, that basically says, take away no permissions from the user, right? So keep them at 7. Take away, write permissions from the group, because that's a 2. And the 7 says take away all permissions from the other and leave it at 0, right? So like it's the bit mask negation of permissions you should apply. Again, probably not something you're going to have to set yourself. And then we did not read access control lists because I didn't feel it was necessary for this group.
Yep, sounds good.
All right. Chapter 6. Did you read chapter 6? I don't know where you start and stopped.
I stopped it at umask. That's where I ended. I didn't get to umask, and then the rest of this I feel like will be relatively.
This
I'll
is
have
cake.
used them. Like I've used package managers, other things.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I have not read any of these. So
Now that I'm staring at this graphic, I see that this is a UPS. This is meant to be a UPS truck. This is funny. I like it. What do we have here? Python views, but Bison's in there, Ruby's in there, lame. That's cool. They got good graphics here. Anyway, chapter 6, software installation and management. This is we're probably only gonna spend like 5-10 minutes here, barely, because
okay.
there's not much to talk about here. You don't just magically get software on your system, right? Like the fact that I could run Fish, or the fact that I could run LS, or the fact that I could run, Rust C or Go or whatever, like, or Podman, the fact that I can run all these commands and programs on my system is not because they were magically like placed there, right? I have to install those programs. And there's different ways of installing software on your machine, right? The very, very old school traditional way was to download the source code for the software that you wanted to download, that you wanted to use, and build it locally, right? Like build from source. You can download a tarball or an archive of software and extract it into the right locations on your machine, and that's how you can have software. You can download it straight from the internet, right? A binary right off the internet. You can use a package manager, which usually comes with your operating system. So things like apt or apt or DNF or yum or pacman or zipper or whatever the heck else is out there for the various different Unix and Linux machines for the world. But you can install software that way. So if I wanted to install, I don't know, like Docker or something or Podman, I can do sudo dnf install Podman, and it's going to ask me to authenticate, and it's going to reach out to all the various repositories that this machine is configured with. It's going to see if it can find a package called Podman out there, and it's going to try to install it if it can find one. And in this case, I already have Podman installed, so there's nothing to do. Questions?
I don't have any questions here, but coming like the questions I do have is with, for example, like Winget, the sources are all like the Microsoft store and the Winget repositories, so I don't ever have to add new repositories to things to search through. But oftentimes with Linux, I will have to say like, hey, I want to install the GitHub CLI, so I need to now search through this thing as well.
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. So install. I'm just gonna kind of cover this a little bit more, because you bring up a good point. So here I have like the documentation for installing Docker on. I'll just put it full screen. Like, let's say I want to install Docker, right? I go to the website. Here's how I install Docker. Oh, I'm using Fedora. Great. I click this, and now I go here and I like follow the directions. And the very first thing it tells me is like, hey, dude, you got to set up the repository for Docker. What does that even mean, right? Like, what does that even mean? Well, what it means is that, oh, I actually wanted to view this in the browser, but it's fine. What it means is that there's a file. Can I like not have the stupid little
text
things? Yeah. Hold on. I'm just gonna open that up in my terminal. Downloads, Docker. Yeah. So this repository needs to be installed into your system. What does that mean? It means take this file and put it in a special place that your package manager knows to look for. And then the next time you run your package manager, it'll now know to look at these other places for new packages. So you're basically telling your package manager, hey, if you want to like look for Docker packages and stuff, here's new places on the internet to go find Docker packages. So that's all this is. It's just a definition saying, hey, here's where Docker packages are if you want to find them. So if I install this on my machine and then reran my package manager to install something, it'll like hit this and try to find Docker packages, and then I'd be able to install Docker. This is one way to install software. And then as Docker, the company, puts newer Docker packages in these locations, right? Like they put a new, Docker version, 1, 2, 3, 4. They keep putting new versions. I don't have to do anything anymore. I just have to do, package manager update, right? DNF update, yum update, apt get update, upgrade, whatever. And I pull in the new packages automatically. So that's why this is like an attractive way of installing software, because once you set up the repository, you're done, right? You just install it, and then as new packages are available, you just update. Questions on that so far?
Nope. It's just another URL to search through because it's not centralized as in Microsoft land.
Yeah, exactly. So that's one way to install. However, some software is distributed not necessarily always in a repository that you can add to your package manager, but some software is just a raw binary that you download for your machine. The GitHub CLI is a good example of that, right? So the GitHub CLI does have repos that you can configure with your package manager and install it that way. It does have that for sure. But if you didn't want to do all that and you wanted to just download the raw binary yourself, you can go to the releases page for the GitHub CLI and you can see all these assets here, and you just download the asset that's right for your OS and architecture. So for me, I would download like the Linux AMD 64 version of this, right? I click this, open this up, and then now I have the GitHub binary in here, and I can run this. And if I just move this binary to somewhere on my path, so I'll show you that real quick. So if I did like downloads, GitHub, bin, GitHub -- help, boom, it works. I'm running the GitHub binary. But if I just type GitHub, it doesn't do anything, right? It doesn't know where to find it. But if I move this or copy this to somewhere on my path, which is like local bin, I have that in my path. Now if I run GitHub, it finds it. Now I've just installed this software, right? I just took this binary, moved it somewhere on my machine where my shell can find it, and now I install the software. That's another way of installing software.
And then if it weren't available here, you'd have to install from source.
Right. And if they didn't have a repository, and if they didn't have binaries you can download or whatever, you would have to like go to the repository, look at this documentation and say like, hey, how the heck do I build this program? Right. And you have to like look through this docs. Here you go, build from source. And you'd find this, you'd click this, and then you would see, here's how you build this from source. It's a Go project, so it needs Go to be installed, and then you have to like do this stuff. That's another way to install software.
And I'm pretty sure like cargo bin install does this, like automates that process for certain things. Like it'll go, if it doesn't exist, it'll build it from source. And if it does, then it'll install the binary from the artifact.
Right. And Go can do that too, right? Like Go and Rust have really good tool chains for this. Like Cargo and Go are good at installing programs. Like I can do Go install and then like point it to some place that has a package to install, and this will reach out, find this Go program called Cloud Provider Kind, download it, compile it if necessary, and install it into my Go path, and then I can just use the damn thing. And same thing with Rust. I can do like cargo install or whatever, and it would do the same thing. So like arguably with more modern software that's written in like languages that have these good tool chains, installing from repository or installing from like by downloading your binaries manually is like not as popular depending on what you're installing, right? You can just use Go or use Cargo and get the thing straight from source automatically. So it's a preference though, I think.
Yeah, I mean, like you'd have to keep Rust on your system forever if you wanted to keep it, but that's not really too much of a problem usually.
Exactly. Yeah. And usually if you are a programmer that develops in those languages, right? If you use Rust a lot or if you use Go a lot, generally you have their tool chains installed, and you like it's easy to install software written in those tool chains. Like me, like I use JJ. JJ is like a new Git replacement, essentially, like a new version control system, and I install that with Rust, right? Like with Cargo, and I tell it, say Cargo install JJ. And same thing with my editor. I use Helix as an editor. I build that from source, and I use Cargo build, and I install it, and it works nice. So it's my preference though, because I like to keep up to date with the latest changes. That's one thing I didn't mention. The packages that are in the repositories that people publish, or the assets that are on someone's release page, are often out of date, right? Because especially in a popular active project, because contributions are being made, all the time to these programs. So if you rely on your package manager for software, odds are you're not running the latest version of the software all the time. You might be running the latest released version or the latest stable version, but if you want it to run like the default branch, what's completely latest, then you probably just have to build it from source. Okay.
Not a like question necessarily, but like another observation to talk about is like when I install Discord, for example, that one I believe does not have an apt repository. So you either have to like go to their site and install it through dpackage, or
Yeah.
I think they have like
They have a
I saw
chargeezy.
somebody went on Pop OS and they had like a snap, or I'm not sure what it is, snap or Flatpak, but it just worked well for them versus with me I had to do a ton of configuration, get it all working.
Yeah, I don't run. That's a good point. So that's also something I didn't mention. Packages are generally targeted at a specific Linux distribution, right? So .deb is for like Debian packages, so things that use dpackage or apt, those can be installed. Those can install .deb packages. .rpm packages are what, Red Hat Package Manager, Rel Package Manager. I think that's what it stands for. I forget. Um, those are generally for the Red Hat sort of distributions of Linux, like Fedora, like Red Hat, like CentOS, and things of that nature. And those get installed with RPM or with Yum or with DNF package managers. But you bring up a good point with Discord. Discord only distributes a deb file. So like it's a big middle finger to anyone that's not on Ubuntu or Debian or whatever, which is me. So Discord is giving me the finger. And then they also distribute a tar.gz, which is just a source code like tarball usually. It's either usually a source code tarball or a tarball of built source code assets, like the built binary, some configuration files, some other files to like, for desktop icons and crap. And then it's up to you to like put all that crap in the right place, which is really frustrating. And then like you said, there's also other things like the snap packages and flat packs that you can use to install things like that too. For me personally, if you don't provide me like an RPM that I can download or a built binary that I can like move into my system, if you give me like this tar.gz and you tell me to like go put this on your system yourself, have fun, I'm just using the web app. I'm not even downloading your app anymore, dude. I'm just using you from the browser.
I looked into if there's an app repository for Discord. It seems like someone else made one.
Yeah, I think they did, and it's like in the like an additional repository, like the Coper repository. It's somewhere. I forget where it is.
Oh, this one's just called Discord apt, and then it has. I mean, they just have a bot that is checking for updates and updates their repository.
Love it. That's so good. Dexter in YouTube chat says one of the advantage from compiling from source is that the package gets optimized for your CPU. If it uses a certain compiler flag called like March native, and I think March is, I forget what the M stands for in March. I forget what it stands for. Which means that like it performs better compared to a generic precompiled package. That's actually a good point. So sometimes there is benefits to compiling programs yourself, because maintainers that maintain these programs, they compile it for like the most wide consumption, right? There's no optimizations for your specific CPU or architecture or any of this stuff. So generally, like if you want to compile from source, you can get some of those optimizations. And the march stands for microarchitecture. Thank you.
I would have thought it would be machine.
Yeah, I forgot what the M stood for at first, and I was like, I heard it before, and I can't remember. Minecraft architecture. Matt's architecture.
Oh, true story.
Cool. And that's pretty much it for chapter 6. There's not much here, right? The TLDR, different ways to install packages. Every Linux distribution has its own package manager. Package managers have to be configured so they can find packages. You don't have to use a package manager. You can download binaries from the internet. You can install from source and blah 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 blah. Right? That's basically the TLDR of this section.
You can type them in from a magazine too.
You can type them in from magazine. You can curl pipe it to bash and GG. Okay, and I know you didn't read chapter 7, and I know this is the last chapter that we were going to review today. But it was only half of the chapter that we read, or that we were supposed to read. And I think it went up to shell basics was the last, right? Environment variables, I think. Am I correct?
It went to shell basics, yeah.
Okay, yeah.
I can see how much of it.
That's fine. I'll just give the brief overview because, there's more of shell scripting that we can talk about. Like this isn't actually, the reading that we were supposed to do doesn't actually cover the shell syntax. It really just covers why you want to use shell scripts and like some very basics of how to run them. So we'll just talk about that, and then we'll leave the rest for the next week.
Oh yeah, it's like the last 3/4. Yeah, it
Yeah.
gets into like loops, environment variables, and whatnot.
Yeah. This is a great chapter in my opinion, like, or at least half of chapter so far. It's basically like a call to action for anyone who's using like a Linux Unix style system is don't be afraid of scripting, right? Don't be afraid of creating a script to make the tasks that you're doing day to day easier. Even if it's just like a 1-line or 2-line script that like saves you some headache every now and then. Like, script it. You're allowed to write scripts for these things. And quite frankly, like, I've done a poor job of this myself. You know, I've been one to type a lot of things and, you know, not make scripts for the common things I do, and then use my shell history to figure out what the heck did I run yesterday, you know? And Fish is really good at this. Fish has a really good shell history, and there's new tools out there that you can use for shell history, like a 2in. But basically, the TLDR of this chapter is don't be afraid to write scripts. It's not hard. All of the stuff that you run on the command line, you can put it in a script file and run it that way. And this chapter also makes the point that Bash and Shell and Fish and all of that, they're not the only way to write scripts. Programming languages like Python and Ruby and whatever, they exist. And they're really good languages for scripting as well. So use your favorite language or scripting language and write some scripts is like the TLDR of this chapter so far.
Yeah, I have a ton of those at work. Like, I wasn't one to do that at all until I was like, wow, I have to write out this big long thing every time. No, thank you.
Agreed. There's this part in this chapter here where it says like it doesn't also have to be like scripts. You can just automate the things you do in life, right? Like, and then they give some examples of how like most of the Adobe applications are scriptable. You can do things with SQL. Mac OS has like automation systems that you can do, like the Automator app or whatever. You can script outside of the shell, essentially, is what it's saying. And I wanted to bring up really briefly that at a previous job, we had a salary transparency channel that I was the like manager of, essentially. And we had a Google form where you could go fill it out with your salary information. And I would be notified when somebody fills it out, and then I would copy and paste their responses into the Slack channel to like show everyone like, hey, new anonymous salary report, here it is. And I was like, wait a minute, I don't want to have to copy and paste this crap. Plus there's like the potential for error because, you know, I'm a human and I can make mistakes. So I was like, can I script this? And you can. If you have a Google form, you can use what's called Google App Scripts. I think they're called app scripts. And you can like write programs to work with your Google Forms or your Google Sheets or your Google Docs or whatever. So I did that, and I had the program run every time a new form submission was submitted, and it would read the form data, it will collect it all, it'll make a JSON body, and it will post it to Slack's webhook, and that webhook would just post the message to the channel automatically. And I was like, this is amazing. No longer do I have to copy and paste things. No longer can a manager at this place DM me and say, hey Matt, you should stop sharing salary information. You're just painting a target on your back, blah, blah, blah. No more of that. And it was great. Life was good. So automating things is amazing.
The biggest one that I know from my current job is there's a lot, like we have a server where we install like more or less executable files into the server, and you have to do it in a very specific order. So if you do it yourself, you have to wait, like just like stare at your computer for an hour and make sure that the one install is done, then do the next one. Versus a nice beautiful script can make sure all of those packages are up to date and do all of those for you.
Agreed.
Very nice.
Yeah. It also has the benefit of almost serving as like documentation too, right? If I say Jacob, go go put the executable files in the order today, and you do that yourself, great. But then like if you go party for a weekend or go on vacation or something, and I tell you, and you come back to work and I tell you to do it again, did you forget what you did? Right? Are you going to do it again? Are you going to make mistakes? But when you write a script or when you automate your stuff, it kind of also serves as documentation for you, where like the process by which you're doing something is codified, you know?
Yeah, I do that all the time for documentation. Like instead of saying like do this stuff, instead run this command and it will do all the stuff you need.
That's a good thing. That's a good behavior that you should keep in your career.
It has confused some people, to be fair, like unzipping files, for example, but
Yeah.
most of the time it's helpful.
No, that's great. Um, what else was here? I think that was it. The shell basics was pretty straightforward. It was basically just like, hey, there are different things you can do in your shell. And I guess I should take a second to promote my podcast. No, actually, I am going to really quickly promote the podcast. There's when you open up your terminal, right? So I use the Ghosty terminal, right? That's the terminal that I have open here on the right hand side of my machine. When my terminal launches, it launches a shell, and the shell that I'm running.
The stream can't see your shell, by the way.
Oh, it can't.
I just noticed that. I looked over and I was like, oh, it's not there.
Oh no! Let me see. Hold on. I'm going to my stream. Oh, I see it. I see it on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, it's there now. It wasn't there before. It was just blank.
Oh,
Wait,
weird.
now are you showing it right now? Because I don't see it on
No, I'm not showing it
Discord
right
now.
now.
Okay. Maybe I was just looking at an old version.
No. Yeah, you might have been
Okay.
on latency. But no. So I launched my terminal, right? My terminal. I'm using Ghosty. Maybe you're using iTerm. Maybe you're using Terminal app. Maybe you're using GNOME Terminal. Maybe you're using Windows Terminal or whatever it's called. Maybe whatever you're using. But generally, that terminal is going to launch a program called the shell. In my case, I'm running the fish shell. So I'm not running bash. I'm not running Z shell or Z shell, whatever you want to call it. I'm running fish. And the shell's responsibility is to take input and like execute that input, right, as commands or whatever. So this part of the book is talking about the shell basics. So when you're at your shell, you're presented with a prompt, and you can type things into that prompt and run commands or whatever. But you can also set options for the shell. So for example, if you use the set program, you can set the actual like some options for your shell. So you can set it into Vim mode if you wanted to. You can set it into Emacs mode. You can set it that commands should, fail hard when there's a failure or whatever. You can set these different configuration options for your shell. So that's what this part of the book is kind of talking about. And it's not something you do often, but you can do it. And I think that everyone who uses the shell seriously should take a moment and understand what configuration options are available for your shell. People in the chat are saying that they love Ghosty as well. Yeah, Ghosty's great. Actually, on our podcast, fallthrough.fm, we interviewed Mitchell, and that episode, I believe, will drop on the 24th. So stay tuned for that, because that episode was slamming. Mitchell's the one who created Ghosty. Also got a comment in the chat real quick. It says, "Hey Matthew, it's Blake Jones. Nice review on the UNIX book. Keep up the great work." Thanks, Blake. You're so great. I still owe you a DM response in LinkedIn. I still have it. I swear, it's coming. Cool. Then the book goes into quickly about like pipes and redirection and variables and quoting and environment variables. Does anyone have any questions on that, or should I just give it like the good old once over?
I don't have any for now.
Dev, anything that you want to have questions on?
I guess I'm going to just ask a simple thing. When you do set it to VI, how do you go back to like, not it being like VI if you do set the shell like mode?
I actually don't know. Oh,
I have
I'm in
like
Fish,
I
so
had
like
some
I don't do it
script
that
that
way.
was more complicated. That I think the default mode is Emacs, so you just set it to Emacs.
I think you would just do set OVI, and then now it's on, and then set OVI, and now it's on again. Set OVI.
You
Is
want
it?
to set it to Emacs. I'm pretty sure that's what it was before.
Oh, was that on before?
Yeah, the default
Oh
is
yeah,
Emacs.
and
Thanks. I did not know that like the default was Emacs.
I think
Yeah,
there's
and unfortunately, all the
option.
commands don't work as you'd expect. Like, you can't like. I think you can't like change in quotes, things like that. Maybe I'm just using a weird terminal editor where it didn't all work, but not everything works. But it is nice to do that.
Yeah, I guess that's what you would do in this case. I don't see like a way of saying set VI off. So I guess you would just like
Yeah.
set it back to Emacs instead. That makes sense. If anyone's ever seen like this at the top of a shell prompt, I'm gonna get out of there. So if you've seen like, I don't know, foo.sh, bin bash, and then like set EUO pipe fail crap. If you've ever seen this at the, is it pipe fail? Something like that. If you've ever seen this at the top of your script, that's what it's doing. It's setting configuration options for the shell before it starts running your shell script. That's literally all it's doing. And if you like look at the help options for set, you'll see what E does, you'll see what U does, and you'll see that the O option is setting pipe fail. So you can just see all this information yourself, and you can see, I guess I did, I did that in the shell. Bin bash, set help, and you can see, oh, pipe fail says it does blah, 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 blah. Oh, dash E says da 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 da, and dash U says blah, 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 blah. So that's what it's doing. You can go find out this information instead of guessing.
Oh yeah, that makes sense for Vim because Vim also has the set command to do
Yeah,
similar
exactly.
things.
Exactly. But to be clear, you're configuring your shell here, right? You're not configuring your terminal. Your terminal, that's different. You're configuring your shell. Or in the case that Jacob just mentioned, you're configuring VI or Vim, the program. So yeah. Cool. I'll give the once over of the rest of the stuff then real quick. Pipes and redirection. So generally speaking, when you run a program, that program has at least 3 streams of communication channels or data channels, however you want to call it. It has standard input, so how I can receive data, standard output, how I can send data, and standard error, another channel for how I can send data. And they're usually given the file descriptors 0, 1, and 2, respectively. When you're running commands in your shell, those commands will output on standard out and standard error. You can redirect the output to different files or whatever using the right angle bracket. And you can put a file descriptor number before that right angle bracket to specify which stream you want to redirect. So for example, if I did like, or I'll just look at the examples in the book. If I like ran a command and used the right angle bracket, that's saying redirect standard output. But if I used the number 2 and then the right angle bracket, that says redirect standard error. Very useful when you want to split streams and send like output to one file and errors to another file. Similarly, on standard input, you can use the left angle bracket to read a file as standard input and send it to the command on the left. So TLDR, there's 3 streams of data, standard in, standard out, standard error, and you can redirect those to and from different files. Then it talks about the find command. That's, you all can look up the find command and see how to use it. I'm not gonna really cover that. It's just how you find files on the system. And then it just shows more pipe examples. That's why I will show the pipe stuff. So the other thing is, the other piece of redirection is called pipes, which is the vertical bar on your keyboard. What a pipe does is it takes the command on the left and it attaches its standard output to the standard input on the command on the right. So if you ran like this find command here in the middle of my screen, if you ran this find command, it'll print out all the files that it found on standard output and then pipe that into the standard input of less. And less would just display that to you in a page. So when you hear pipe, that's what it is. Pipe standard out to standard in of another program. And you can do many pipes in succession.
Well, that's fancy. I use HTTPD at work.
Fancy. Oh yeah,
HTTPD
it was a popular Apache server for a while. I haven't
it's
used
not
this
supported on Windows anymore.
So I haven't used this in a minute, dude. 7 years old. Nginx or die.
I mean, yeah, we use Nginx for newer stuff, but HTTPD is living on.
Oh yeah. Dexter in YouTube chat says that FD is a great modern replacement for find, and it is much faster and whatnot. That's actually good because find is a little ergonomically tough to use, so FD is better. Then the book covers what are these called? I don't remember what these are called. These, the and the or. Are these called? They're not
logical
pipes.
Operators.
They are, but is that what they call
like
it here in the shell?
Logical and logical or. Oh, I don't know. It says it right there. Logic and. Logical and. Yeah.
But is that like because it's not a pipe, it's not redirection. I'm just trying to think if they called it a different concept. Either way, whatever. You have these logical operators that you can use where if the command on the left either exits with a 0 or a 1, it'll do the command on the right conditionally. So the and says if the command on the left exits cleanly with a 0, then run the command on the right. And then the or says if the command on the left does not exit cleanly, right? So a non-zero exit code, then run the command on the right. Cool. Oh, and then the last thing is you can put multiple commands on one line just by separating them with semicolons. Very, very common on the shell command line. If you want to run a long command without writing a shell script, you just like put a bunch of semicolons.
I've always used the ampersand, or like the logical and. That would do the same, right?
No, because these will execute even if they fail.
Okay.
This is like make dir foo. If this failed, it would still do cd foo, and if that failed, it would still do touch a file. Like it would still do it, unless you set an option in your shell to like exit early or something.
Yeah, I just assumed that was the case, but it makes sense.
Variables and quoting. You can make variables in your shell, right? You can like set key equals value, and that's how you make variables in your shell. So here it's showing you how to create a variable and then like echo its contents. Something that's very difficult to a lot of people when they come to shell scripting, especially in like Bash, is that they don't like this equal sign. See here, there's no white space around it. So like it all has to touch. If you put white space here, it won't work because Bash is very technical with that. And Bash is very weird about how it processes like strings and quoting. Generally speaking, single quotes mean literal stuff inside the quotes, and double quotes mean non-literal stuff inside the quotes, that aka there's room for interpolation. So that's the difference. If you're used to like JavaScript or something, there is like format strings or Python format strings. A double quote is kind of like a format string in that regard, where you can put variables inside and they'll be expanded.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It gets very annoying because there's sometimes where you want to expand things and you don't, and it's just like, it gets a little bit of a nightmare. If you are writing shell scripts...
Especially nested stuff.
Oh yeah, nested stuff's the worst. If you are writing shell scripts and you do want to check whether or not shellcheck.net, if you do want to check whether or not your shell script has bugs in it, there's shellcheck.net, and you can paste in your script here and it'll tell you what's wrong with it. Very, very useful. There's also a CLI version that you can run without going to the website.
Interesting. It supports Cabal. I don't even know if that's how you say it.
Cool. Variable. I won't spend too much time on variables. That's pretty much it. We're going to use them more and more, so we'll get to them. The last thing that we were going to read was the environment variables, essentially, I think, was the last one. Or was it the common? Yeah, I think it was just environment variables. Yeah. So your shell has a concept of environment variables, and these environment variables have different purposes, I guess is the word I'll say. So when you set an environment variable, and hold on, I'm going to move my shell or I'm gonna move my terminal to the other screen for a second to see if I have anything wonky in my environment before I print it out.
On the note of set, like set is used in CMD to set environment variables, so that does not work the same between shells.
This is true. Yeah, it's shell dependent. Yeah, okay. I don't have anything crazy in here. Cool. So like if you wanted to look at your environment variable, you can do env. You can also do printEnv or whatever, and you can see your shell environment variables. I'm going to sort them to show them in sorted order. I hope there's nothing crazy here. Yeah, there isn't because I opened up this terminal afterwards. Yeah, okay. I was working on something before. Cool. Anyway, all these environment variables they are normal variables, right? Because these are normal shell variables. I can like echo, I don't know, $ username, and I can see my username and blah, blah, blah. So these are normal shell variables. And the fact that they're uppercase actually doesn't really matter per se. It's just a convention really to put the variables in uppercase, right? So see right here, by convention, environment variables have all caps name, but it's not technically required. So when you see an uppercase variable, it's just a convention that it's a environment variable. But the cool thing about environment variables is as you like spawn new shell processes, like new child shell processes or whatnot, the environment gets passed down to that child. So if I were to like run bin bash and then do env, you'll see that like I have my environment here still. It's still here, all the environment variables, because it spawned a child process, sent the environment variables through it, and boom. So why do we care about this, right? Why do we even care about environment variables? Well, different programs look for environment variables to do different things. One such thing is this one, the editor environment variable. This editor environment variable, I would argue that most people watching this or whatever here right now have never even used this before. It tells most programs what command to run as your default editor when prompted. So if you set this to VI or to Helix or to Z or to VS Code or to whatever, when you're doing things on the shell that require an editor, it'll open up this program. So I set this myself to echo editor. I set this to Helix, the editor that I use. So when I'm doing Git operations or whatever, and I need to use the editor, it'll open up Helix instead of opening up a VI or something and like me being stuck in Vim, right? Like something like that. So you can do this. There's also other things, right? There's the path environment. There's like the LS colors that show how to like do colors for your terminal and blah, blah, blah. And there's all of these different environment variables that you can run. And they have meaning from different programs. Any questions on that? My dog's looking at me like, bro, you were gone all day and you don't love me. And now you're ignoring me for this screen in front of you.
How could you?
How could you? Let me look at the Discord chat because I wasn't paying attention to it. Any questions on any of this stuff? I think this is pretty much where we're supposed to read up to.
I don't have any.
Cool. Dev, I know you said you had questions. You said you have out there questions. Do you want to ask them? You can ask them.
Okay. So, I mean, this was not related to the book. That's why I asked you, like,
That's fine.
So, okay. So, you know how, like, on the terminal, you have, like, basically control H as the backspace and control, if you press, like, control H, it just, deletes stuff.
Yep.
You have control M as enter key, basically.
M?
Control M is like the enter key.
Oh, yeah.
Like if you want to execute something or like that. So that's works great on the terminal, and I really like it because that means that I don't have to reach out for the backspace key, which is like really a pain in the wrist for me, and even the enter key sometimes because I've gotten used to not pressing these two keys. Um, so on Linux, like the all the GUI stuff, you have like the terminal stuff. That's fine. I love the terminal, but then you have the like the GUI stuff where if you open like Firefox, it it runs on GTK, I believe, and it doesn't like take in those things basically. So there's actually an option for that where you can turn I believe these are called Emacs like bindings.
Yeah.
And they like if you I'm gonna put it in the thing in the Discord chat, and if you go to the keybinds for this one, I couldn't actually link you the exact thing, but if you control F like keybinds, oh sorry, GTK key theme basically, GTK key theme. Oh yeah, there you go, yeah, yeah. So if you change those files, it basically makes it so the Control H is backspace on on all the
On
like
your
text boxes on your browser everywhere. Yeah. But it doesn't do it for Control M. So I was like, I want Control M to be like enter. So that's what I was kind of wondering, since you're like so experienced with Linux, if there's a way to make Control M do the enter key basically, because that would be really lovely without like having to run any external like a key mod map or something like that.
Oh,
Because
dude,
that
yeah,
usually
you're getting into it. There's so I blogged about this a little bit. There's so many layers to this shit. It's really frustrating of how like there's basically like this is basically the process of like how a key goes from a key press to a key code in the application.
Link me the blog?
Yeah. I don't know if at this point, like if you did something here and you made a key binding here, I
tried with the what's in the but like I just couldn't like Control M. Just I even asked ChatGPT, which didn't work. And I tried but yeah, I don't know with the and yeah, you are very right when it comes to it's very tough because the thing what it does is you run into so many issues is like if you change it on the GTK thing on the terminal it stops working all of a sudden,
right?
Or if you go to the TTY it's like stops working there for some reason. So just the Control H works fine, it's great, it's lovely, I love it, but Control M if you want to change it, it just messes up other places. I just couldn't find a reliable way to do it.
Yeah, you might have to do it at a layer deeper than GTK, like than GNOME. You might have to do it like at the key map layer. Take a look at the blog post I sent you, the one I wrote up, because I had a similar problem where I was trying to remap F13 to do something different, and no matter what I did, I couldn't do it, and then I had to make my own. I basically had to override my own key map to do that instead of setting it. Even if I set it in GNOME, it wasn't working for other applications. It was only for the GNOME stuff.
Yeah.
It wasn't if I opened up OBS, it wouldn't work or whatever. Yeah. So it was weird. So I kind of went down the rabbit hole that day, and I wrote up this blog post for it. So check that out and see if it helps you maybe know where to look next, at least at the very least. Because this whole area is kind of like a nightmare because every application is allowed to interpret the key presses in its own way technically.
Yeah.
So you might just be facing an area where you open up Firefox. And sure, it's using GTK, and maybe it might even be receiving, the Control M signal correctly, but it's probably just saying, nah, I'm gonna ignore that. I'm not gonna do anything with that.
It usually mutes a tab, which is such a silly function to have.
Yes, that's pretty stupid. Yeah, and you might need to say, screw it. I'm not gonna let Firefox see a Control M at all. I'm gonna remap Control M to enter before it even gets to Firefox, and then that way Firefox doesn't see Control M anymore. It sees enter. This whole it's a rabbit hole, man. Good luck. It's a rabbit hole though.
Thanks for this blog. I'm gonna read through this whatever you have written here.
And I really just detailed my journey of remapping F13 and 14 essentially, or F13 to F20. But it should give you an idea of the layers that are present here.
Yep. Thanks.
Any other questions?
It turns out that the thing I did link before is somewhat relevant, and they did a hashbang instead of a shebang. I don't know, is that different? Who knows?
It's the same
They
thing.
did it differently because, yeah, I mean, something like that. I don't understand this entirely, but it does seem relevant. Oh, yeah, it moves the stripping from the kernel to the JavaScript engine, I believe, because otherwise it wouldn't know. Well, actually, I don't know. Well, if you understand that,
You put a link? Oh, this. Okay.
yeah, put it in the chat. Yeah, because I am getting confused now. It says hashbang instead of shebang, which seems different.
It is the same thing. Like shebang is just like a shorthand of saying hash. Instead of saying, hash, it's like shebang. Proposals such host strip the hashbang in order to generate valid. Oh, I guess it's basically saying. Actually, no. Now I don't even know why hashbang instead of shebang. Am I right? Maybe I'm wrong. Oh, is it
The
just
hash sign is used, but not the she sign
yeah?
or the
What
she sign.
does that
I
mean?
don't know.
Not the exclamation point. Is this what JavaScript people do? They just write bullshit like this and they just expect people to understand what they're doing. No, I'm just saying.
This
I,
page is like slightly out of date, I think, because it's on stage 4.
yeah, I don't really understand what they're
So like
saying
the actual
here.
page seems more confusing, but there's the actual proposal. This is like a nicer to read page.
It looks like they're talking about it from like their interpreter parser sort of deal, like how they like lex and parse these things. But reading this in the short time that I just read it now, I don't understand what they're actually trying to do here. I guess they're saying that they want the ability to have the hashbang not be stripped. Because they're saying, like, there's a byte watermark at the beginning of the file will prevent this from being interpreted. However, web browsers strip that byte watermark so we don't get the ability to, like, interpret the shebang. I guess that's what they're trying to say here, I guess. But, so I guess this proposal is saying, hey, web browsers, don't strip the byte watermark anymore so that we can interpret the shebang correctly. That's my read of this, but I'm no JavaScripty person.
The Google AI is telling me this is a part of the 2023 edition of JavaScript, and it seems that's
Interesting.
labeled somewhere else. But this page is marking it as a candidate still, which I don't.
This is also like a
Maybe
good
it's just not up to
example
date.
of like why writing is important. I have no idea what this person, whoever wrote this, is trying to say to me. They need to do a better job writing their intention here, because yeah, like even in the example, I don't know what these examples mean to me.
If you read the TC39 one that I put in the chat, it's like less understandable, but of course it is literally like defining how like the language spec for JavaScript.
Oh yeah. Input element hashbang or reject, yeah. So this is more at like the language spec level. That's pretty cool. Well, yeah, that's a good thing to talk about with hashbangs and stuff. Is it's not like a Linux feature, really. It's the shell, or it's actually like whatever program is responsible for parsing the file in the first place. That's who's responsible for the hashbang stuff. Like who's responsible for interpreting it. In our case, when we run a script through our shell, right? Our shell is the one that's spawning the shell script. So it sees the hashbang at the top and says, oh, I'm going to spawn this through the fish shell or through the bash shell. But like if you took that same script file and ran it through like your own custom written program, well, then now your custom program is responsible for interpreting that stuff. So in the JavaScript world, it's responsible for interpreting it. Cool. Any other questions before
As far as I can tell, this is just Okay.
No, go for it. Go.
I think it's just standardizing how it was done because hashbangs were used before, but
Yeah.
this is just specifying how hashbangs work, and it will strip out any of this if it's used in any other files. Like if you ran the entry point file and it had that, it would get rid of it from your shell. But that if you had it in a module, then it would not strip it out
Yeah, got you.
because it wasn't the entry point.
That makes sense.
So it works per module now, I think. But yeah, it's a thing in JavaScript. I just did not know. It does say rarely used in the proposal.
Yeah. Cool.
Yeah, it's treated as a comment more or less.
Any other questions before we wrap up today then?
None from me.
Also, I gotta say, and put it on the stream so it's recorded. I was helping my wife earlier at the chocolate shop for orders because she was slammed today, and I was like, baby, I gotta leave and be home by 5 because I have a thing. She's like, are you recording another podcast? And I was like, yeah, let's go with that. And I got the glare, I got that look of like, how dare you leave me on the day before Valentine's Day. So I just want you all to know that this is the commitment I have, okay?
We appreciate you. We appreciate you sharing your knowledge.
Of course. I might just die later, but it's fine. I'll be fine. Cool. Any other last minute questions then before we call it for next week?
Yeah, not for me. Yeah, I need to still go through 5, 6, 7 before this.
What's up next, Jacob? Do you know the next one so we can prepare our listeners and viewers for what's next?
Yes, we can prepare the listeners and users. I have not calculated out the pages yet, but I can guesstimate. I would expect it to probably be 3 chapters, but let me scroll up and find out. So yeah, like the end of chapter 7, of course. So
finishing scripting.
Yep, and then getting into user management.
Okay.
And is that one just a long chapter? Or am I missing? Oh, yeah, I just skipped through a ton of them. I could just do it right now and figure it out if you have the time.
Yeah, so it looks like chapter 7, 8, 9-ish, right? For the most part?
Yeah, 7, 8, 9-ish, and then... Yeah.
Sweet. I think we're making good progress then. I know we're not planning on reading the entire book. We're planning on we're kind of cherry picking, but I think we're making good progress. And that's why I wanted to stream this and record it so that way if you want to go back to it or something in the future, you can just go watch it.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well,
okay.
Anything else?
I can tell you which the end of it after 2 seconds.
Okay, yeah, take your time. This is where I run my sponsored segment, This
Cloud Service Fundamentals is the last one.
Oh,
which
perfect.
Is in
chapter 9.
What chapter?
Chapter 9. Okay, so we're going from 7, 8, 9. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, so that's the end of 8, I think. I don't see 9 in here.
Yeah, so next week we'll cover some of the cloud stuff, which is great because then I can be like, everyone should run on Oxide. You gotta buy Oxide. And I can do one of those, and be like, that's your cloud. Perfect. See, sponsored segment. I told you it's coming.
Oh, yeah. That's the end of 9.
Yeah.
Computing. Oh, yeah, I just missed the chapter 9. I can't read. So, yeah, that's up to 9.5-ish. So,
yeah, that'd be perfect. Cool.
What's the page number?
If we do through cloud service fundamentals, it would be 283 would be the last page.
283. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. Sweet. Any other Linuxy questions that are maybe not just the reading, but just in general? Before we do the thing. Going once, going twice. Chat. Anyone questions before we call it wrap up? My dogs are both next to me now, and they're looking at me like, "Sir, you shuffled in your chair like you were gonna get up, and now you need to take us to the outdoors." So I'm gonna take them out in a minute. Cool. All right, everyone. Well, next week we'll do 789. Thank you for joining.
Yeah.
And if you have any questions or comments or concerns, just list them here. Reach out. You see my website. There's an email there. You can send an email there if you need to get in touch with me. So I will see you all next Thursday. There's no holidays, right? Anything crazy? No. Okay. Just making sure we're on track here. Sweet. All
Have a
right,
nice walk.
Yeah.
Cool.
Next Thursday it is. Thanks everyone. Thanks chat for joining. I'll be streaming not just obviously book reviews. I will be streaming some actual working sessions too soon. I'm just getting all that kind of set up. So I'll be on more often. Trying to. Cool. All right, everyone.
I'm through the next chapters in the chat, and I guess I could throw it in the YouTube chat or something too, right?
Yeah, throw it in the YouTube chat. Let the people see it. Let the people know. I'm still waiting for my Amazon order to come in here.
I could comment it on YouTube. That would probably be easier. Oh wait, I can't comment right now. After.
How dare you? How dare you? I actually like YouTube's streaming platform. It's pretty nice.
Wow, it limits me to 1,100 characters and then breaks my formatting.
What are you typing that you need to
Or
put
just
1,100 characters?
I would just put the page numbers.
All the chapter names. I don't have the page numbers, but
All right, tell me the chapter names. I'll put the page numbers for you.
So we need to read from command editing in chapter 7. So let me know when you find that.
Yep. Command editing. Oh, yeah, okay. I kind of went over that a little bit today. Yeah.
Yep, from command editing to cloud service fundamentals in chapter 9.
Is that up to or including? I think it's including, right?
It's not the whole thing. It's just the first page there. Up to access the cloud.
Oh, okay, cool. Sweet.
Yeah, up to calculate the pages, I said every single one of these headings is approximately one page. And then
yeah, that makes sense.
Just call it a day. And so I said we're going to read 60 more pages, which is around 2 chapters.
I got asked what machine am I using. I am using... Oh, I hit the wrong one. I am using... Do I have NeoFetch or Quick Fetch? What was the fetch one? Fetch? I forget what it was.
Just run with new fetch. I think it's still available, just not maintained.
Fast Fetch? Sure. I think it was Fast Fetch. That's fine. Let's try it. There we go. We did the thing, dude. Fast Fetch. Yeah. So this is what I got running right now. So I'm running Fedora 41. That's the OS. I usually use Fedora on my workstations. I have the framework 16 with the Ryzen 9. I think this is the machine has 96 gigs of RAM, wherever that is. Yeah, 96 gigs of RAM, and has the graphics module installed as well, right here, discrete. So yeah, that's what I'm rocking. I like this framework. It's pretty dope. I just got a new dock that knows how to speak USB 4 instead of Thunderbolt 3, or Thunderbolt 4 instead of Thunderbolt 3. So that's been really nice. So, and you can see like this thing is like yawning right now. Like if I top, this thing is just like, look, idle, yawning. Memory, look, memory doing nothing, and I'm streaming to you all to 2 channels, and I'm recording locally, and I'm like streaming to Discord and all this stuff. So it's pretty good.
Looks like NeoFetch was deprecated end of life as of October 2024. Didn't know.
Fast Fetch baby, Fast Fetch baby.
And then it was taken out of Fedora after that, so it makes sense why you don't have it.
Ah, yeah, that makes sense.
Wait, NeoFetch is not in Fedora?
Yeah, because it is end of life, so Fedora took it out.
Oh, yeah. Fedora usually takes out packages that are like that.
It's lying to me. It says that my battery's charging, but it doesn't show it's charging. I'm being lied to. Anyway. Cool. All right, everyone. Next week it is. I will see you all there. Let me go call my wife so that way, I see if she's still alive or whatnot because she's busy. And I will see you all next week. Bye.
Sounds
Bye,
good.
Matt.